Well, hello and welcome to our thought for the day for Thursday, the 25th of June. My name is Graham Hoslett. Where were you born? What was your place of birth? I'm quite proud of my birthplace. See if you can guess where it was. It's a cathedral city in England. The cathedral spire being the tallest church spire in the United Kingdom. At 404 feet, that's 123 metres. The cathedral has the largest cloister and the largest cathedral close in Britain at 80 acres. The cathedral contains a clock, which is among the oldest working examples of a clock in the world, and it has the best surviving of the 4 original copies of Magna Carta, and that's just the cathedral. There's also the marketplace. The rivers Nadder, Ebble, Wylye, Bourne and Avon flow through it. Have you guessed where it is yet? It's in the county of Wiltshire, and it's always seemed wrong to me that it isn't the county town of the county of my birth. I think the county town is Trowbridge. But it's not for nothing that most of Wiltshire is taken up with a large area of beautiful downland, not called Trowbridge Plain, but called Salisbury Plain. Maybe you have a similar affinity or soft spot for the place of your birth. Our psalm today, Psalm 87, is a psalm that makes a wonderful promise and an incredible claim for each and every one of us. Whichever town we hail from, wherever we were born. At first sight, it looks like it's a psalm of praise of the city of Zion, a psalm in praise of Jerusalem. Verses 1 and 2 of Psalm 87. He, that's God, has founded his city on the holy mountain. The Lord loves the gates of Zion more than all the other dwellings of Jacob. Glorious things are said of you, city of God. The name Zion originally referred to a specific hill in Jerusalem, Mount Zion, located to the south of Mount Moriah, which we know as the Temple Mount. According to 2 Samuel 5, Mount Zion held the Jebusite fortress conquered by David, following which the fortress itself was renamed the City of David. But the term Zion soon came to designate the whole area of what became Davidic Jerusalem, and was soon being used as shorthand for the entire city. But Psalm 87 is not a psalm in praise of Jerusalem, but a psalm of wonder and promise at what would be said of Jerusalem, and be said about the surrounding nations, most of whom hated the place. Glorious things are said of you, this is verse 3, city of God. In particular, I will record Rahab and Babylon among those who acknowledge me, Philistia too and Tyre, along with Cush, and will say, this one was born in Zion. The people of Israel had long known themselves to be the chosen people, the children of Abraham. In Genesis 12, verse 7, the Lord appeared to Abraham and said to him, to your offspring, meaning his children by his wife Sarai, I will give this land. And as the years had passed, as generation had followed generation, the sense of being a chosen people, a special people, had deepened, intensified and grown. So the people of Abraham, the Hebrews, had long understood the need for them to remain a people set apart to the Lord, distinct from the nations around them, resisting the temptation to give in to the false religion and idol worship of the gods of the surrounding nations. But way back when God had first called Abraham in Genesis 12, verses 1 to 3, the Lord had said to Abraham, go from your country, your people, and your father's household to the land I will show you. And the Lord had said, I will make you into a great nation, and I will bless you. I will make your name great, and you will be a blessing. I will bless those who bless you, and whoever curses you, I will curse. But then Genesis 12 verse 3 continues, and all peoples on earth will be blessed through you. All peoples. Called to be a people apart, yet deep in God's purposes for his chosen people, was not just that they, the Hebrews, would be his, but that through them all the nations around, and not just the nations around, all nations, would come to know the Lord. And in a way, that is what has happened. Through Jesus, the Jewish Messiah, people of all nations have been called to be his, including us. Psalm 87 verse 4, I will record Rahab, and the footnote says that's a poetic name for Egypt. I will record Rahab, Egypt, and Babylon among those who acknowledge me. Well, here's two amazing names of the nations to be recorded, according to Psalm 87, as acknowledging the Lord. Rahab, not only as Egypt, not only a power at the time, but very much an enemy of their past. And Babylon, the up-and-coming power, soon to be their conquering enemy. The Babylonians were going to destroy Jerusalem. But what a claim, what a promise. I will record Rahab and Babylon among those who acknowledge me. And it goes on, verse 4, Philistia too, the Philistines, the traditional enemies of Israel to the west, and Tyre, the traditional trading rival and enemy to the north, along with Cush, that's the Upper Nile region. They were a people and a country with a fearsome reputation from the deep south. And will say, this one was born in Zion. And verse 5, indeed, of Zion it will be said, this one and that one were born in her. It wouldn't just be these surrounding nations who would be said to have been born in Zion, according to Psalm 87, to feel they belong there. It would be hard to find a nation not so named. It reminds me of Jesus quoting Isaiah 56 verse 7 in Mark 11 verse 17. My house will be called a house of prayer for all nations. And his words in John 10 verse 16, where Jesus, speaking of himself as the good shepherd, said, I have other sheep that are not of this sheepfold. I must bring them also. They too will listen to my voice, and there shall be one flock and one shepherd. In verse 6 of Psalm 87, the Lord will write in the register of the peoples. What's pictured is the list of all the peoples, all the nations of the world. The Lord will write in the register of the peoples, this one was born in Zion. We might say this one too was born in Zion. And verse 7, as they, and who is the they? Not the Hebrews, not the Jewish people alone, but all the other nations. As they make music, they will sing. All my fountains, Zion, are in you. There's an advert at the moment for the Royal Navy, and it shows a young man struggling at home and then finding his place as he enlists in the Navy. He joins his ship and becomes part of a crew. Speaking of Blyth, which is a small town on the northeast coast of England, the young man in the advert says, I was born in Blyth, but I was made in the Royal Navy. I think it's a good advert. I was born in Blyth, but I was made in the Royal Navy. I suppose it reminds us that wherever we were born, that doesn't necessarily mean that that's where we ultimately belong. Where we were born was not down to us to choose, but where we belong, where we choose to call home, well, that most certainly is a choice for us all to make. Psalm 87 says, glorious things are said of you, city of God. Indeed, of Zion it will be said, this one and that one were born in her. Amen.